everybody. I'm actually a couple minutes early. It starts in about 4 minutes here, but I just want to make sure that everything's working properly. And if you have anything you want to talk about for a couple of minutes, I am available, and I can answer any questions that you've got. Cool, yeah, that's awesome. Quentin says, I like the chat teaching thing. It's cool. Hey, Arnold. Can you guys hear me and see me okay? Perfect, awesome. Awesome. Well, hopefully you have your guitar with you. It doesn't matter whether you've got an acoustic or an electric. Either one would be just fine. We're going to get started here in just about 3 minutes, and we're going to be talking about some tips to try and help you a little bit. Hey, everybody. To try and help you with your bar chords a little bit. Okay? So it looks like everything's working okay. Please say your name. Barrage. Thank you, everybody, for being here. That's awesome. Hopefully this time is a little bit different for some of you too, because I know usually I do them in the afternoon, so I thought it'd be nice to do it in the morning for some of you out there. Hey, Sam. Cool. How you doing, everybody? Like I said, we'll get started in just a couple of minutes. If you have any questions about anything, let me know. Greetings from Spain, greetings from North Dakota. And we'll be talking about bar chords and some things that you can do to make this a little bit easier for yourself if you're currently learning how to play open chords or bar chords or anything like that. And I'm going to try and help you a little bit. And thank you, everybody. That's awesome. I'm glad you're here. Okay, so it doesn't matter if you have an acoustic guitar or an electric guitar. Either one would be just fine. It doesn't need to be plugged in. I'm just going to give you some ideas to think about a little bit to make your bar chords. And this works for your open chords, and it actually will work for scales and things like that as well. Just some things to think about. Quick story until we get started here. I was teaching a guitar class last night, and we really started talking about this whole element, and I had a number of students in the class that were very excited about thinking about their playing a little bit differently to make it a little easier for them. Hey, Hans. So hopefully that will help you again today. So we'll get started in about 1 minute. I'll give everybody just a minute here to get logged in. Greetings from India. So awesome. There's so many people from India here. This is great. Cool. Hello from Sweden. Hey, Scott. Nice to hear that you're here. Dallas, Texas. We got all kinds of people here. This is great. Cool. All right, we'll give it just another minute and we'll go ahead and get started. So again, if you don't have your guitar with you, please grab your guitar and we'll be able to go through this. If you don't, it'll be posted, on social media. You'll be able to watch it later. And just so you know, I do have a new guitar course that's being released called, Brandy says it's too cold to play. Yeah, that's why I play indoors here. Yeah, the guitar I'm using is actually a Paul Reed Smith. Okay, this is the Alex Lifeson version of the Paul Reed Smith acoustic. It's a thin body, which we're going to talk about today. That's one of the things I want to talk about a little bit with you, is making sure that you have the right guitar for the things that you're actually trying to play. We always think about, brand and quality and all those things, which are very important. But size of the instrument is also very, very important as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I don't want to waste anybody's time because I know you all have stuff going on. Okay, so what we're going to be talking about today, I've got a new course coming out called Barre Chords Made Easy. And I thought what would be really nice, I had a guitar class last night and we had discussed some of these things. How to make chords, namely bar chords, a little bit easier if you're struggling at all with playing. Okay, so let me explain some things to you. The first thing, we're going to go through 3 things, really 4 things today. But the first thing we're going to talk about is proper holding of the guitar and arm placement. And I'm telling you, these might seem like simple things, but they're things that people tend to get wrong on a regular basis. I see students when they're playing, they'll be like bent over this way trying to play and stuff like that. So what I want you to think about, now you can't see my leg very good, but I'll use this as an example. Okay? The first thing is elevating your leg to put the guitar in a position that's comfortable for you. If your guitar is way down here, it's going to be harder for you to play. If you can bring the guitar up further, now right now I've got my leg elevated, okay, there's my leg right there. So I'm actually on the tips of my toes, which I play a lot when I'm sitting like that, and it brings the guitar up closer to me. So just number one, think about the fact if the guitar is lower like this, it's going to be harder for you to play. You want to get this up a little bit, okay? The second step is once you've got that position, what I want you to think about is grabbing the guitar with this arm, kind of grabbing the guitar right here, and having that neck come out just a little bit this way, okay? So instead of playing with the guitar straight across your body like this, I play with the guitar out a little bit like this by grabbing on and kind of securing that guitar. That way, between my leg, my stomach, and my arm, the guitar is secure in there and it's not going to move. Makes me comfortable to be able to use my hands for different things that I'm going to be playing, okay? But the nice thing too is that it pushes that neck out a little bit. And that way I've got some more room here to work. When the guitar is up against my body like this, I run into the side of my rib cage here and I can't keep playing. So what I like to do is I like to kick it out a little bit like this and I've got a little more room. So step number one is elevating the guitar up a little bit. Step number two is turning that neck out a little bit. Hey David, hey everybody, hey Robert. So kicking that neck out a little bit, all right? Now we get to the next part. This is really important. For those of you that have played a bunch of chords and stuff, you know this. When you play like an A chord, for instance, generally you're sitting, I always describe it like driving, right? You're holding onto the steering wheel. This is an A chord. But if you want to play a C chord, trying to be in this angle and then trying to play this C chord is very, very difficult. So what we learn to do is instead of being in the steering wheel position here to play a C chord, for instance, what we do is turn the elbow in, which then kicks these little fingers up in the air. So if you think about the guitar neck sitting this way, if you're sitting this way trying to play a bar chord or a C chord or all kinds of chords like that, like this position is great for D. This position is great for A, right? But if you want to play C, you're going to have to turn this in a little bit so you can reach, okay? And this is the secret to bar chords as well. So when I'm playing a bar chord, I don't want my arm out here because my arm is, or my hand is sitting at this angle. My wrist is sitting like this. So what I want to do is I want to turn inward, which then gives me more space for these smaller fingers to reach up higher, okay? So that's what I want you to think about a little bit. So watch this. So I'm going to make you a G major bar chord on the 6th string here. Okay, first, again, guitar is elevated, neck is out a little bit, so I've got some room inside here, okay? So as I come up to the guitar to play, you'll notice, hey Jeff, I'm not sitting at this angle because my finger is already at the wrong angle and all of these other fingers are down here. So what I need to do is take that elbow, rotate it in, which then turns these fingers up a little bit, which gives me more space. Now, I might actually be sitting a little bit at an angle this way, right? Instead of absolutely straight, and we'll get to that in just a second. But that's okay, okay? That's all right. The stronger part of my finger is usually the top part of my finger anyway, okay? So again, step number one, guitar up. Step number two, neck out a little bit. Step number three here is the elbow is coming in a little bit. Now this is why I like to have this space, is so my elbow fits right in here. Now depending on your body size and all those sorts of things, you might have to readjust this a little bit. Okay? Right there. Okay? So that's how I approach this, is to get my first finger in the right position. Now, we'll call that the step one of these 3 steps I'm trying to explain to you. So step one is placement. Okay? And I don't want you to forget how important, hey Ron, hey Jim, I don't want you to forget how important it is to think about these little things, because it's so easy to just grab the guitar and then try and play this. I had a couple of adults in my guitar class last night that, you know, they were just having such a hard time because they were coming from this angle. So, you know, their hand is all kind of curled up like this as they're trying to reach this stuff. And the trick is you've got to spend some time thinking about the placement, okay? Not just the fact of making the chord itself, which we're going to get to, but it's the placement of the guitar. It's the placement of that elbow, which in turn turns that wrist a little bit, okay? So really think about that when you go to practice this. Again, I've got the guitar kicked out a little bit, the neck is kicked out a little bit, so it gives me a little more room, okay? Thank you, Tyler. Okay, so here's step number 2. Step number 2 is the finger placement of this first finger. That's really difficult for people. What I want you to think about, and again, everybody's different. I can only tell you how I do this, right? But I don't play with this front part of my finger, okay? I don't play with this. I play on the side of my finger, and I wouldn't say it's completely on the side, but it's kind of at an angle here. Not the front and not completely the side, but kind of right in the center there. And the reason is because that way if my finger turns a little bit, I still have a straight edge, okay? And if you think about what I was just saying about the elbow, as I turn that elbow in, it kind of situates my finger right on kind of the side of the finger like that. So now all of a sudden there's two things that are beneficial about that. Number one, I don't have to play with the flat part or the front part of my finger like this, which pushes my elbow out. But the second thing is I avoid the knuckles, which is a big problem, okay? When you're trying to make this bar chord oftentimes, the problem is you'll wind up with a finger underneath one of your knuckles and then you can't get it to make the right sound. Well, if you turn a little bit to the side, and I'm not saying completely on the side of your finger, I'm saying kind of in between, okay? You turn it a little bit, thanks so much. If you turn it just a little bit, you're going to be able to get a little bit better edge, okay? Now the other part is make sure that your thumb is in a good place to be able to squeeze that bar down. I find a lot of times when people play, you know, their thumb will either be way over here, you know, or stuff like that. You kind of want to put your thumb somewhat behind where the most pressure is needed, which is really where that index finger is, right? So that's kind of where my thumb goes, is on the opposing side of where I'll try and show you this direction. Where this finger is, that's kind of where my thumb goes. Now again, everybody's different, you're going to have to adjust a little bit, but that's where mine goes, okay? So I'm turned a little bit with my elbow, I'm playing kind of at the side of my finger like that, and that way if my finger curls just a little bit, I'm still okay, all right? Brett, I can't turn the volume up, but I will talk louder, okay? My wife is actually working over there, so I'm trying not to bother her too, but, okay? So I'll try and talk a little bit louder for you, okay? All right, so that's the finger, what I call the finger roll. You're turning the finger just a little bit because the elbow is in. It's giving you a little bit more space, okay? The next step is always remember that you're as close to the fret wire as you can be. Always try and remember that, okay? You see that? So I'm trying to get as close to that actual fret wire as possible. Don't go backward. Always try and get right up next to that thing. Okay? Now it might look like I'm on top of it, but I'm not. I'm sitting right behind it. Okay? Just like that. Okay? So again, let's not worry about these other fingers right now. Let's just try and get this one working a little bit. So step one is placement of the guitar, placement of the elbow and the wrist. Step number two is this first finger and trying to get that in the right position. Now for a lot of people, which we're going to get to in a second too, but their big stress point is that they got to press so hard, they got to squeeze so hard, their wrist hurts, their fingers hurt, all those sorts of things. And I'm telling you, one of the most important things is make sure that the placement is correct. Now we're going to get to some other things at the very end here that can help you with this as well if you're just learning how to do this. Because sometimes it's not just you, sometimes it's your guitar, sometimes it's your guitar strings. There's things that you can do to make this easier for you, especially if you're just learning. There's some things you can do to make this far easier for yourself. Okay, so guitar placement, first finger placement. Okay, so we talked about how you turn a little bit, you try and get as close to this as you can. Okay, try and kind of avoid those knuckles if you can. Your thumb should be kind of behind that first finger so you can squeeze those two together. Now the benefit is with turning under like this a little bit is once you decide to make whatever bar chord, whether it's G major or G minor or whatever it might be, as you turn that elbow under, you're giving these fingers more space, where if you were turned this way, you know, they just don't have any room and then they start laying against all these other strings. If you turn under, okay, like that, yeah, your knuckles shouldn't be turning white, right? Yeah, but again, I understand. You know, I mean, when you first start learning how to do this stuff, force is one of the things that we deal with, and the trick is think finesse more than anything. Try and get this angle to work for you. Okay, so that's the second step. The third step, and this is really important for everybody that's learning how to do this. So again, whether you're playing chords or learning scales or whatever it might be, focus on getting the notes to work as best you can, but don't expect perfection, okay? Bar chords, tell you the honest truth, bar chords, when I was first learning how to play guitar and I started learning how to play bar chords, they were almost the demise of my guitar playing. I wanted to quit playing guitar because it literally took me about 3 months to get this one chord to work, this 6-string major bar chord. I couldn't do it, and I was convinced that I couldn't play guitar. So I was going to quit, and I was all frustrated. And then one day, and I always tell people, playing guitar isn't like climbing a mountain where every day is a little bit better. Sometimes you hit a plateau and you just sit there and it seems like you're never going to get any better. And then one day you wake up and things just work, okay? They just start working. So what I'm telling you with this bar chord is be aware of the way you're playing, be aware of making things as comfortable as possible, but also understand, and this is the third tip, this is the most important tip, is give yourself a break, okay? If all the notes aren't working perfectly, keep going and keep practicing and keep trying strumming and all these other things that you're trying to practice. The perfection of the sound of that chord will come in time, but you need to give it time. You practice it every day, you know, but don't just spend 4 hours on one chord trying to get every note to work perfectly. Do the best you can, but understand that the more you do it and the more you play songs and all these different kinds of things, it will start formulating and it will come to fruition. It's just going to take time. So here's what I want you to understand. When you make a bar chord, let's say you make this 6-string bar chord and you get those 4 notes to work. But these two, they're just not really working just yet, okay? Don't stress out and think that you can't do this. It's okay. It's just going to take a little time. Maybe you need to readjust a little bit, but maybe you just need to keep practicing and enjoying yourself, okay? I'm telling you, because I would have been bummed if I quit playing guitar because of this silly thing. And it just, like I said, it just happened. One day I started playing and it was there, okay? So I need you to be aware of that. It's a better alternative than getting so frustrated that you don't want to play, okay? I'm going to use a 5th-string bar chord as a prime example because this is one of the worst things for people, is playing this 5th-string bar chord. If you've played these yet, and again I talk about all these chords and bar chords made easy and how to make them better and how they connect and, you know, all kinds of different things. But with this chord, one of the biggest problems people have with this 5th-string bar chord is getting that 1st string to make sound. Because usually when we make a 5th-string bar chord, you have this finger that's barring the bottom 5 strings, and you have this finger, the 3rd finger, that's barring the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Right? And that's where the hassle is people try and make this 5th-string bar chord, and they can get 5, 4, 3, and 2 to work, but they can't get the 1st string to work. Okay? So what happens is they try and play this, and it sounds like this. And it doesn't work, okay? How long is bar chords made easy? I'm not exactly sure how long it is, to be honest with you. I don't remember if it's a couple hours long or something like that. If you talk to one of our support staff, they can tell you. I can't remember, I apologize. But I think it's around a couple hours long. So if you can't get this 1st string to work, then what happens is they start trying to lift this 3rd finger up to get that 1st string to work, but then it messes up the 2nd string. And then all of a sudden that one's not working. So think sequential. If you can get 5, 4, 3, and 2 to work, but your 1st string is not working, don't worry about it. There's lots of players I know that when they play this, they can't get that 1st string to work. The 1st string is kind of irrelevant anyway because it's not the most important note, okay? I don't want to get into big detail, but when you do this, getting that 2nd string to work is really important because it's what makes the chord sound major or minor is on the 2nd string, okay? So that's really important. So if you can't get the 1st string to work, again, don't sweat the small stuff. Focus on the big picture, and if you can get it to work, like I have really small hands. If you have really big hands, I don't know what it's like to try and play this bar chord because I don't have that problem. I've got just the opposite problem. I got really little hands, so I got to try and figure out how to make it work from my perspective. So those are the 3 things I want you to focus on. Now the 4th tip, if you will, and I'm not telling you to run out and buy a new guitar at all, but I'm telling you that finding a guitar that fits your body style, okay? I have a guy in one of my guitar classes that he's probably 6'4", and he's got a guitar about the size of mine, this thin body guitar. And so when he plays, it looks so small on him. He really needs a bigger size guitar, you know, like a jumbo size guitar, because it's going to fit him better. Now again, I'm not telling you to run out and spend your money. I'm just saying be aware that the body style of the guitar is going to make a difference. Two things that I think about a lot, and I have a wonderful store here in Fargo that I can go to, and they do all my repairs and things like that, but is the setup of the neck. Okay, if your strings are really, really far away from the guitar neck, it makes bar chords difficult, and especially when you're first learning how to play, if you're fighting, trying to squeeze these strings down, it might be worth bringing your guitar in and having an adjustment made on that guitar neck, and you'd be surprised at how much easier. I guarantee if you were sitting with me right now playing my guitar, you'd go, wow, that's really easy to play. And it is. It's set up intentionally that way. Okay? The second thing, well, the third thing really, number one is the proper size guitar, the second thing are the strings, or the strings getting closer to the neck, but the third thing is the thickness of the strings, the string gauge, okay? If you're using really thick strings because you were told they sound better and blah, 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 I'm not saying any of that isn't true. What I'm saying is right now that shouldn't be your focus, okay? Your focus is to have something that's playable, that you can learn how to do. I'm gonna make sure my cat doesn't knock my stuff over here. So the thinner the string, the easier it's going to be to squeeze those strings down. Yes, it may sound a little thinner or whatever, and it may or may not bother you, okay? But if you start off with a little bit thinner string, and then as you learn how to do this, maybe then you try a thicker string and see how it feels. And if you don't like it, go back to a thinner gauge, okay? So you got to just explore these things a little bit, but understand that the guitar, the distance from the strings to the neck and the string gauge is going to make a difference. Now, I saw somebody had posted, I'm sorry, I have so many things coming through here, but somebody had posted about the radius of the neck, the thickness of the neck. Obviously, that's going to make a difference too, right? I mean, if you have a really big neck, a really thick neck, it's going to make a difference on the way it feels in your hand. Some necks are a little bit rounded on the front. Some necks are a little bit straight on the front. If you've just started playing, you might not know what you want yet. And again, I'm not telling you to go out and spend a bunch of your money, buying a different, once you figure out what works for you, but you can start with something very small, like setting the neck up properly and putting some strings on there for $10. Go out and buy a set of strings and put those on there and see if it helps you a little bit in trying to do this, okay? There's lots of different brands. I use, here, 20 seconds. Not even 20 seconds. I use these, okay? They're Martin Flexible Core SPs, okay? If they work for Tommy Emmanuel, they work for me, okay? And they're really easy to play. I love these strings. Now, these strings are 11 to 47. They don't feel like 11 to 47. They feel a lot easier to play than a standard 11-47 set, okay? Because of the way the string is constructed. So it's got a flexible core inside, which makes it a little bit easier to bend and manipulate a little bit, and certainly to press down. So again, I'm not selling you them. I'm just telling you that there's lots of things out there that you can try, okay? So anyway, I'm going to let you go. Hopefully that helped you a little bit. And if you're interested, please check out Barre Chords Made Easy, where I'm going to go into far more detail with all of these different kinds of things. Because bar chords are so important to us, not just how they work and how to play them, but how they connect together, the theory behind them, being able to use them in your songwriting, all kinds of different things. Somebody said what kind of electric strings I use. Right now I've always used GHS boomers, and I find myself going back to them. For a while I was trying all of these paradigm strings and things like that, but to be honest with you, I wind up going back to boomers almost all the time. But it's a personal preference, okay? So everybody take care and stay positive, keep practicing, and I will post this again so you can watch it on Facebook or YouTube or wherever you are, and hopefully that will help you a little bit. So everybody take care, and I'll talk to you soon.